Hi, my name is Lindsay. I'm going to be presenting about the USA Gymnastics and Larry Nassar case. Right now we are in our dorm room in New York City, so if there are sirens and or beeping, I'm sorry. I'm sure that you've heard of the case before, so here's some fun facts about it. It started in 2016 when the Indy Star released an article saying that there had been sexual assault cases within the USA Gymnastics organization. And then the U.S. Senate got a hold of that article and said, hey, look, you guys need to really investigate this because we're in the era of the Me Too movement and that's not okay anymore to do. So during that time, Larry Nassar was the doctor at the University of Michigan State University, and he was fired because of these allegations made towards him, and obviously it would look really bad in the school if they kept someone that has these kind of allegations that works with children. He was also at the time being investigated for child pornography charges in July of 2017, so on top of the sexual assault, he was also being charged for child pornography. Then top gymnasts such as Michaela Maroney, Aly Raisman, Simone Biles, the part of the 2012-2016 top 5 team, came forward and said that they were also victimized, and that caused a lot of media to get alerted about it because those were really popular people at the time. So in November of 2017, he pleaded guilty to 10 counts of first-degree sexual misconduct and is sentenced to 40 to 175 years in prison, which that doesn't really make sense. Following his child pornography sentencing of 60 years. So, for lack of better words, he was in prison for life. After the charges, Michaela Maroney, who was underage at the time, came forward and said that the USAG paid her to keep quiet. And then overall, here's a little sum up of it. About 330 women came forward in this case and said that Larry Nassar had assaulted them in some type of way. He was sentenced for life in prison, and many people knew about it within the organization, yet chose to keep their mouths shut. So some organizations that were involved, obviously the USA Gymnastics, Larry Nassar was a doctor for them, especially for the 2012-2016 Superstar team of Aly Raisman and all those people. And then, like I stated before, they also paid Michaela Maroney to sign a non-disclosure agreement where she would keep quiet about this and get paid for it, which obviously is very wrong. Another organization involved is Team USA. Now, as of right now, the most recent information we have about this case is that they're looking into removing USA Gymnastics because of everything that's going on, and they don't want to continue this bad reputation. And then obviously Michigan State University, where he worked with other gymnasts as well. He started there to begin with. The complaints about him began in 1998 and continued throughout 2016. Obviously that is a long period of time, and a lot of women came forward to the school and said, something happened when he was checking me out for injuries and everything, but the school said he is a wonderful doctor and chose to brush it off to the side. But eventually, after all these allegations came, they fired him. Some key publics involved are obviously all the victims. They're directly involved, and their lives completely changed, and their trust for USA Gymnastics completely went away. Olympic watchers are also affected and involved because me, as a huge Olympic watcher, it's kind of hard to, and I used to love the USA Gymnastics, and it's kind of hard to see that someone would do something like that. It involves with that as a huge supreme sport, and I'm sure everyone watches the Olympics, so they're all affected by this, and it could affect the ratings of the 2020 Olympics because they don't want to support something when USA Gymnastics knew that this was going on. And obviously the students at Michigan State University probably caused a bad rap on them because you don't really want to go to a school where someone is sexually assaulting these women. My SWOT analysis. I mainly focused on USA Gymnastics' response to what was happening. So some strengths of them is they released an apology and listed steps that they needed to take. They let the board of directors go that were there at the time of this the case happening. And then the Olympic Committee, I feel like, did more than the Gymnastics Committee did. So they released steps that they were able to take to protect their athletes. Then the board of directors that got fired also put out an apology. And then the USA Gymnastics are paying victims between $75 million and $150 million, which is also why they may get shut down, because they're going to lose all their funding because over 330 women came forward. And then they hired this woman named Shelby Waldron as Director of Safe Sport Education and Training. Some weaknesses, obviously, are that they paid this athlete to stay quiet and not come forward. And then there's a whole case involving the former head of gymnastics, Steve Penny. He was charged with removing documents from a training facility. So there's important documents needed in this case and evidence against Nassar, and he chose to hide them. He eventually came forward and was arrested. He also asked the FBI for help in wording of public statements in order to help the USA Gymnastics image from negative publicity. So he kind of asked the FBI, like, hey, what do I say, and to not make my company look bad, even though you can't really, if there's sexual assault involved, you're going to look bad. And then USA Gymnastics did not post much about the issues. I kind of scrolled through their Twitter, and they would release the statements in a picture file, but it gets lost within, there was a world competition going on too, so it gets lost in that, whereas I think that they should have focused their main attention on that. And then they hired Mary Lee Tracy as an elite development coordinator, but she defended Nassar after his arrest in 2016. So she kind of defended him and said, no, he wouldn't do something like that, and then they hired her, but then she was fired because all the victims, Allie Raisman specifically, said that's not okay, so they kind of got rid of her after that, but they shouldn't have done it in the first place. Some opportunities, USA Gymnastics can learn a lot from this instance. For example, like, become more transparent, release more statements, and start a clean slate, and hired a brand new team and a brand new president and all that, and then redo their company main concerns. And then some threats are, obviously, the reputation remains with USA Gymnastics forever. It's, that's going to put a stain on them forever. And then another threat is that the Olympics might shut down gymnastics. And then another threat is that more victims can possibly come forward. So the response, they use the reactive responses. So they use a diversionary response. Obviously, they weren't going to run away from this issue. They still tried to put the attention on the World Gymnastics, like I stated before about the tweets. It gets lost in there. Vocal commiseration. Obviously, the organization expressed some sympathy towards the victims, and they also expressed someone apologized to them as well. And then now they're trying to provide steps in order for them for that to not happen again. Some tactics, they use face-to-face communication tactics. The USAG CEO at the time, she later quit, apologized to the victims at the hearing. That's a screenshot of that. And then obviously they posted their press releases on Twitter and on their website as well about what was going on, but not that many. So the timeline of the tactics used, May 23rd, they apologized to the victims. October 27th, the board of directors released an apology, and then October 24th, that's when they hire Shelby Waldron, which is the Safe Sport Education and Training. They hire her and they post about it. So obviously there are many ethical and legal issues here. Advocacy, they did not act responsible advocates for those they represent. They kind of knew what was going on, so they didn't believe their accusations at first. Therefore, they weren't really loyal to their athletes. Loyalty, like I said, they did not believe the women at first, and this is who represents them as people, so you need to put your athletes first. Some co-provisions, disclosure and information, they did not act promptly. It did not release much information about the incident. Only when they hired or fired people and apologized like a couple times. Conflicts of interest, obviously society does not condemn this. This goes against like pretty much all of society's beliefs, so that's also an issue. Some takeaways that I took from this was to remain transparent. This organization should have continued to update all the publics on everything that was going on, especially their athletes. The athletes felt like they were kind of on the back burner. And the allegations should be taken seriously. We can learn from a lot of people, and a lot of people that have came forward in sexual assault cases, that it needs to be taken seriously, because they aren't going to state that and not ruin their reputation. And then obviously provide steps of prevention. They did kind of start that, but now they have to start that again as they rebrand themselves, pretty much. And they say that they paid people. This is kind of like a little side step that I put. They provided payouts for victims, but you can't really pay someone and say, hey, sorry that our doctor sexually assaulted you. I don't think that works that way. They really need to not give people money and provide steps of what they're taking to not let this happen again. And then this is crisis communication is what I focused on, and this is what they say to show that you care about people. Tell it all, tell it fast, tell them what you're doing about it, and tell them when it's over, and then get back to work. So that's kind of, they didn't really do that much. Obviously they didn't really care, and then they didn't really tell everyone everything, and that's it.